The last type of wedge deal is often related to units and multifamily real estate. And that is, let's say you have a property that produces $100,000 of gross rent. And the seller is selling the building for $2 million. Well, we know that this is now selling for 20 times gross. So we have our gross rent multiplier is 20 on this deal. And you look at the deal and go, oh my gosh. He's renting all of those units for like 20% under market value. We could buy this place and then immediately jack up the rents to, let's say, $125,000. And all the comps in the area are, let's say, 18 to 19 because this is an A-class neighborhood for the gross rent multiplier. So you know that 20 is overpriced. So 20 is overpriced. Nobody wants to pay 20. We know the market is 18 to 19 times gross. But you secretly know the area so well that you know, wait a minute. I know I could jack up the rents to market rent, get a rent of $125,000. And now all of a sudden, $2 million divided by gross rent of $125 is actually a 16 times gross rent multiplier. So what have you just done? You just wedged the difference between 18 and 19 times gross, which is what the market deems properties are worth, and 16 times gross. How did you do that? By understanding that the rents they were advertising were actually significantly lower than what the rents should be. So you could get in there, you could raise rents on tenants, you could kick tenants out. Now all of a sudden you are getting a wedge deal in the form of correcting what is a lower rent. Generally, this is not possible on newer construction properties because newer construction multifamily units usually rent for closer to market. Oftentimes, you're going to find these wedge deals, again, not to stereotype, but families that have owned a property for 30, 40 years, 20 plus years, and they just want to get rid of it. They're tired of being landlords. They don't raise the rent. They haven't raised the rent in 20 years. They don't really care. They don't need the extra money. They just want to sell the house. They think they're getting a good deal selling it because they're like, well, I'm listing it for 20 times gross. Yeah, but bro, your rents are way low. You don't have to tell them that. So you get to take advantage of that. Unless obviously you're their agent and you have a fiduciary obligation to explain to them that we should raise the rents before putting the property on the market. It'll be more attractive and you'll get more money for it. But if the agent doesn't do that, well then, you can take advantage of the R in the core of wedging. And let me just explain that in one further way using cap rate. So let's use cap rate now. If the gross rent is $100,000, that's how it's advertised. They're advertising it as having $100,000 in gross rent. And we use our conservative expense ratio and we say that, well, that leaves a net operating income of $65,000. So $65,000 of net operating income is equal to a cap rate of 3.25%. But because we know we're going to raise the rents to $125,000 times our expense ratio of 0.65, that's going to leave us with an income of $81,250, which $81,250 on the purchase price of $2 million is actually a 4 cap rather than a 3.25 cap. So you see, this is just another way of doing the math on realizing that there are wedge potentials when the rents are low. And that concludes the 3 main types of wedge deals: condition, over-improved, and rent.